I know we pre-planned to talk a little bit about ShotSpotter and some of the operations we've run, but I'm going to take a second and vary from that script and just recognize the fact that we lost Congressman Hastings this morning, a longtime trailblazer and a community activist who was a pillar here in Broward County, but also here in the United States. I can tell you personally, I've had a chance to meet with him numerous times since I've been in office, and he has been a mentor and a true beacon for speaking the truth amongst hard issues that are constantly showing up, whether it be about police reform, whether it be about equality and justice for minorities in this country. And so he will be missed, and he most certainly will be honored here by this agency and this community. With that being said, let me get back to the course of business in terms of what we structured here. One of the things that we did over the last several months is to start listening to the community and utilizing technology to help mitigate the harm to the community. And one of those technologies you all came and participated was the launch and implementation of ShotSpotter into Central Broward, as well as in Pompano, and of course it's operating with the Fort Lauderdale Police Department. And there are things that we are going to highlight. The importance of the technology, how it's benefiting the community, but also more things that the community can do. You've also noticed over the last few days, I've been out in the community, going out to different districts, going out to our special operations components, and doing flight time with Aviation to continue to understand the mission that they have and the success that they are having. And these two technologies between Aviation and ShotSpotter just merged recently on April 3rd, and that's what we're going to talk about. We had a case where individuals had taken it upon themselves to shoot firearms within our community, and ShotSpotter, doing exactly what we've invested in, immediately notified our dispatch, law enforcement officers, and personnel who are signed on to that platform, including myself. I get every single shot that's fired in these cities now. And instantly, our aviation unit, who was airborne above patrolling Broward County, was able to do something remarkable. And that our TFO, our tactical flight officer, got the alert on ShotSpotter, recognized that there's a shooting going on in the community, and what he did was to operate some of his technology and camera systems to zoom in over 2 miles away from this shooting and spot the shooter. That's remarkable. It speaks to the level of vigilance that our tactical flight officers in aviation have on a daily basis when they're patrolling out in the air, but they also talk about how this technology is already enhancing our response. We didn't get a 911 call in order for us to respond. And so tactical flight officer and the aviation team immediately start notifying law enforcement personnel or deputies in the field of their observations. They were able to track the suspects down, follow them to residence, locate them, trying to discard evidence, duffel bags of drugs, narcotics, and the ultimate end result was 2 suspects going to jail, multiple felony charges, they being convicted felon and having possession of narcotics and firearms. Spectacular. This is what we want to see. But with that being said, the very next day, with the success we had here in our agency, as I was personally reading a book, we get another shooting. And ShotSpotter alerted once again. This time we have 30, 40 plus rounds as I'm listening to this take place here in Broward County. And the end result is a young child being shot. And then again, officers have to respond to this area. These are important steps that we're taking in terms of investing in technology in this community, and they're proving themselves to be successful. But what the community needs to do is to continue to be engaged with us and start reporting these shootings that are occurring. I'm going to highlight some specifics about some of the things we've done and what we've seen in the districts that are participating with ShotSpotter. To begin with, we've had roughly 200 plus different shots fired within our district out here in Central Broward. 200 plus. Less than a dozen of them have been reported through our local community. That means we are responding to shots fired based on this technology, not based on what the community is reporting. ShotSpotter is a tool, it is not a witness. ShotSpotter provides us with the potential that a shooting is occurring, violence is happening, and then we are responding. But we are not going to be successful in the apprehension, conviction of suspects without community participation. So we need you to continue to make those 911 calls when you hear them. And I understand what's going on in this community. I understand what's going on in certain parts of our county. I grew up in an environment where shootings happen all the time. It was consistent to hear gunfire. and there's a hollowing effect, there's a complacency that the community grows to accept it. And I'm telling you not to. Do not accept it. It's abnormal. And we do not live in a combat zone that should be a convenience to hear gunfire and not think we need to call our first responders to mitigate that. So be encouraged. There are ways you can report this information to us. There's ways to communicate without feeling like you have to expose yourself, and we'll make sure we safeguard you when you do provide information. Really quickly, I want to pivot back to what we are going to continue to push, the imperative nature of expanding technology. Not all of our cities can afford to invest in this technology right now, but you'll continue to hear me speak as a sheriff and notify our community about the success we're having, because I think this is a tool that, one, has proven itself to be successful, but the more that we can implement, the more that we can engage, the more that we can invest in, the greater the chance is that we're going to take some really bad people off the street like we just did on April 3rd.
We have technology, we have a helicopter that allows us to do a lot of things, especially being up there in the air. When we got this call, we heard that there was a ShotSpotter in a certain area of Fort Lauderdale, and we immediately put in the address there, and it actually shows us the exact location with the camera that we have. It shows us the exact location. So as we were flying there, we were coming from Tamarack area, so we weren't that far out. And as we got closer, I saw a heat source coming from that backyard. So I directed my pilot, my partner, to get me a little bit closer, try to get me in between the homes, and he did. That guy at that point had actually moved in between the homes, and he actually looked up at us. And at that point, you could see on the ground there was actually a handgun laying on the ground. He actually reached down, picked up the handgun after he was trying to look for it because it was dark back there. Obviously, we use the camera that has infrared, so we were able to see, even in the dark, we were able to see them pretty well. So he picked up the gun with his hand, and he kind of was walking back in the backyard the whole time. As we kept watching him, he went to the rear area of the backyard, and he went in and dumped the gun, actually underneath the pole, right near the fence area. He nonchalantly walked away. He went to probably about 2 or 3 houses to the west, and he jumped the fence, and he tried to kind of mingle in with a couple of guys in front of the house. We directed our ground units, which were moving in at that time, to make contact with him. He was detained. We went ahead and went back, and I showed we have a playback option, so I was able to show exactly where he dumped the gun at. We went back there, and officers retrieved the gun, and we not only retrieved the gun, a holster with it, and we also found out the gun was actually stolen, coming from, I believe Palm Beach, or actually Broward, but I'm not sure, but it was reported stolen. So we went ahead, and at that point, while they're taking him in custody, we do what we call overwatch for our guys. Our main concern is the safety of our officers, safety of the citizens. So we're still up there in the air, we're watching over, and we actually happened to see another guy, probably about 5-10 minutes into it, walk out the back door of that same residence that we actually had detained him at. And the guy had a bag on his hand, so I went ahead and notified the guys and go, hey, heads up, guys. There was a guy coming out the back door with a bag. He ended up throwing that bag up on the roof, and he came back inside. He left that bag there, and at that point, our guys are, know what's going on. They're kind of being real careful, and about 5-10 minutes later, he did the same exact thing with a bigger bag. Threw that bag up in the air again onto the roof, and eventually we retrieved those bags, and we found pounds of narcotics, another gun, and ammunition. And that led to the other arrest of the person in there and the search warrant to the house.
When we've integrated the technology, I'll backtrack to that. We invested into basically 2 cities here, unincorporated Central Broward County. We've paid for ShotSpotter to be implemented there. We then partnered up with Pompano Beach, who's also utilizing ShotSpotter. So once those 2 cities, so to speak, were contracted, then BSO Aviation would have access to it. However, Fort Lauderdale was a little ahead of us in terms of investing in it, and we've been able to get up on their platform as well. So we could see and hear what's going on in Fort Lauderdale as well.